Did you know? I have compiled things that were introduced or produced every year since 1900 to current year. I hope you enjoy this piece of history. Did you know? 1900 to 1909. Historical facts. In 1900, the Zeppelin was invented by Count Ferdinand von Zeppelin. In 1901, the Sweethearts candy was introduced. The safety razor, vacuum cleaner, and the first modern car were also invented. In 1902, the teddy bear was introduced. The first air conditioner, Cadillac, buck knife, lie detector, and neon lights were made. Crayola crayons were invented in 1903 by Edwin Binney and C. Harold Smith. Hot dog and hamburger were invented and showcased at the 1904 World's Fair. The coffee maker, tabletop stove, automatic potato smasher, and bread machine was invented in 1904. The popsicle was invented in 1905 by Frank Epperson and originally called the Epsicle. Cornflakes was invented in 1906 by William Kellogg. Hershey Kisses were introduced in 1907. The American Messenger Company, which later became UPS, was founded as well. Henry Ford's Model T was introduced in 1908. Skee-ball was invented by J.D. Estes of Philadelphia in 1909. Did you know? 1910 to 1919. Historical facts. Murphy oil soap was first marketed in 1910. Crisco was introduced in 1911 by Procter & Gamble. Crush Drink and Midol also introduced. Clarence Crane invented the lifesavers in 1912. Arthur Wynne invented the crossword puzzle in 1913. The Tasty Baking Company began producing small cakes in 1914. Taxi cabs first appeared in American cities in 1915. An Australian confectioner named Mac Robertson's introduced Old Gold, now being made by Cadbury. The Girl Scout cookies were introduced in 1917. Moon pies and Clark bars were also introduced. Fortune cookies were introduced in 1918. Grocery bags with handles were introduced but didn't get patented until 1929. A&W root beer was introduced in 1919 as well as Hostess cupcakes. Did you know? 1920 to 1929 historical events. Earl Dixon invented the Band-Aid in 1920. Johnson & Johnson produced them in 1921. Chanel No. 5 debuted in Coco Chanel's Paris boutique in 1921. The Power of Love was the first 3D feature film that used red and green glasses to create the illusion of death. The dollar bill dated 1923. Bit of Honey and Dum Dum Suckers were introduced in 1924. Charles F. Brannock patented the Brannock device for measuring shoe sizes in 1925. Purina Dog Chow was introduced in 1926. Edward Haas III invented the Pez candy in 1927. Velveeta cheese was introduced in 1928. Mickey Mouse first appeared and Aspergum was invented as well. Sam Foster and William Grant started selling sunglasses on the Atlantic City Boardwalk in 1929. Did you know? 1930 to 1939 historical facts. In 1930, Marcus Uran, Elizabeth Lee, and John Makepeace founded the Ocean Spray Cooperative in Massachusetts. The first commercially successful electric guitar was released in 1931. It was called the Rickenbacker Electro A22 or frying pan. The Lego was founded by Ole Kirk Christensen in 1932. Edwin Howard Armstrong invented and patented the FM radio in 1933. Campbell's chicken noodle soup was first introduced in 1934 as noodle with chicken. The name was changed to chicken noodle. The first canned beer sold to the public was Kruger's Cream Ale and Kruger's Finest Beer in January 1935 and sold in Virginia. The Oscar Mayer Wienermobile was first introduced on July 18, 1936 in Illinois. Oscar's nephew Carl G. Meyer designed it. General Mills released Kix Corn Puffs in 1937. Actions Comics, published in 1938 by National Allied Publication, is considered the first true superhero comic. Women modeled nylon stockings at the 1939 World's Fair in Queens, New York. Did you know? 1940 to 1949 historical facts. York peppermint patties were introduced in 1940 by Henry Kessler, the owner of York Cone Company in Pennsylvania. Cheerios were first introduced in 1941 as Cheerios. The name was changed to Cheerios in 1945. Sunbeam bread was first produced in 1942 by the Flowers Baking Company and joined the Quality Bakers of America Cooperative that year. The Slinky was invented in 1943 by Richard T. James, an American engineer. It was demonstrated to the public in 1945. In 1944, Benjamin Green developed a sunscreen for soldiers called Red Vet Pet. After the war, he improved the formula and marketed it as Coppertone Suntan Screen. Eric Patrick Clapton was born March 30, 1945 in his grandparents' home in Surrey, England. Earl Tupper purchased supplies from DuPont to build Tupperware products in 1938. He developed the first product in 1946 in Massachusetts. Bazooka is an American bubble gum that was introduced in 1947. It is a product of Bazooka Candy Brands, which is a division of the Topps Company. The first Porsche was a 356 No. 1 Roadster and was produced in 1948. It was built in Gmund, Australia. Sara Lee first introduced its cream cheesecake in 1949. It was named after Charles Lubin's daughter, who was 8 years old at the time. Did you know? 1950 to 1959 historical facts. Hot tamales were invented in 1950. Swanson started selling frozen chicken pot pies in 1951. Clarence Birdseye began marketing frozen peas in 1952 in New York. Eggo waffles were first introduced in 1953 by Frank Dorsa. The first butterball turkeys were sold in 1954. Green bean casserole was introduced in 1955 by Dorcas Riley, a home economist at Campbell's Soup Company. The snooze alarm was introduced in 1956 by General Electric Telecron. The first Frisbees were produced in January 1957 by Wham-O Manufacturing Company in Connecticut. Momofuku Ando invented instant ramen in 1958. The first Barbie doll was introduced in March 1959 at the American International Toy Fair in New York. The doll was created by Ruth Handler and manufactured by Mattel. Did you know? 1960 to 1969 historical facts. The first Domino's Pizza opened in Michigan on December 9, 1960. It was originally called Dominic's. The Ken doll was introduced in 1961, giving Barbie a boyfriend. Dutch engineer Lou Ottens invented the cassette tape in 1962. Bell Telephone introduced the push-button phone in 1963. In September 1964, Kellogg's Company begins selling the Pop-Tart. SpaghettiOs were first sold in May 1965. They were invented by Donald Gork, an employee of Campbell's Soup Company Franco-American brand. Topper Toys introduced the Suzy Homemaker line of toys in 1966. The first hand-held calculator was invented in 1967 by Texas Instruments. The first Red Lobster restaurant was opened in January 1968 in Florida by Bill Darden and Charlie Woodsby. Proud Mary was released in 1969 by CCR. The song was a major hit in the US, peaking at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. Did you know? 1970 to 1979 historical facts. Orville Redenbacher's Gourmet Popping Corn was launched in 1970. It was originally called Red Bow, but was suggested to be renamed after him. The Willy Wonka Candy Company was launched in 1971, 1 month before the release of the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Pong, the first commercial video game, was released by Atari in 1972. Dawn dishwashing liquid soap was introduced in 1973 by Procter & Gamble. Paul André Cola invented Dawn when he was 26 years old. Erno Rubik assembled the first cube in 1974 and called it the Magic Cube. It was renamed Rubik's Cube and sold in stores in 1980. The Pet Rock was introduced in 1975 by advertising executive Gary Dahl. Stretch Armstrong was first released in 1976 by Kenner Products. Bubblicious was first produced in 1977 by Warner Lambert. The world lost a music icon when Elvis Presley passed away. Coors Light was first produced in 1978 by the Coors Brewing Company and nicknamed Silver Bullet. Sony introduced the Walkman in July 1979. The original Model T PSL2, a portable cassette player, was a huge hit. Did you know? 1980 to 1989 historical facts. Big League Chew was introduced in 1980. It was created by Rob Nelson and Todd Field. MTV debuted in the US on August 1st, 1981 at 12:01 a.m. The first video to air on MTV was Video Killed the Radio Star by the Bugles. Diet Coke was introduced in the US on July 8, 1982. Nerds Candy was introduced in 1983 by the Sunmark Corporation. Angelo Fragos created the candy. General Mills introduced the fruit roll-ups as well. Transformers made its worldwide debut in 1984 with its robot-to-vehicle action figurines. Super Mario Bros. Was first released in Japan on September 13, 1985. It was released later that year in North America for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Dockers brand was introduced in 1986 by Levi Strauss & Company. Microsoft Windows 2.0 was released on December 9, 1987. It was a major update replacing Windows 1.0. The first internet worm, the Morris worm, was released on November 2, 1988. It was created by Robert Tappan Morris. The Simpsons debuted on Fox on December 17, 1989. An animated series of a family of 5 living in a fictional city of Springfield. Did you know? 1990 to 1999 historical facts. The first web server was introduced in 1990 by Tim Berners-Lee at CERN. The first web page was live by Christmas Day 1990. Symantec released Norton Antivirus 1.0 in early 1991. It was the first antivirus software for consumers from Symantec. Ty Warner introduced Beanie Babies in 1993 at the World Toy Fair in New York City. They were first sold in Chicago, Illinois. Yahoo was established by Jerry Yang and David Filo in January 1994. Microsoft released Windows 95 on August 24, 1995. A large media campaign that included commercials and videos. The first USB cord, USB 1.0, was released in January 1996. Microsoft Internet Explorer 4 was released on September 22, 1997. The fourth version of the web browser. In 1998, Nokia released several cell phones including the 5110, 6130, 6150, and 8810. In 1999, Intel announced the WebPad, QBE personal computing tablet, and other touchscreen tablets. Did you know? 2000-2009 historical facts. Yes, who remembers Y2K? In 2000, Toyota released the first generation of Prius, the first mass-produced hybrid vehicle. Both the Nintendo GameCube and the Xbox were released in 2001. Heinz introduced its upside-down ketchup bottle in 2002. The Sony Ericsson T610 was the first widely available Sony mobile phone with a built-in camera. It was released in 2003. Facebook was founded in February 2004 by Mark Zuckerberg and other Harvard students. On February 14, 2005, ex-PayPal employees Steve Chen, Chad Hurley, and Jawed Karim officially founded YouTube. The Wii, a home video game console, was released in November 2006 by Nintendo. Amazon released the first Kindle on November 19, 2007 for $399. It was Amazon's first e-reader. Elmo Live, a Fisher-Price toy, was released in the US on October 14, 2008. The first LEGO Toy Story sets were released on December 30, 2009. Did you know? 2010 to 2019 historical facts. Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger co-founded Instagram. The Instagram app was launched on October 6, 2010 and racked 25,000 users in one day. In October 2011, Apple debuted the beta version of Siri with the iPhone 4S. Crave cereal was launched in 2012 by Kellogg's, marking its introduction into the U.S. Apple launched iTunes Radio on September 18, 2013. It was available on iOS devices, Apple TV, iTunes, and Windows. Pepsi True was a Coca-Cola flavored soda and was released in 2014. However, it has already been discontinued. The Tesla Model X was first delivered in September 2015. The Model X was Tesla's first crossover SUV. Mac and Cheetos were introduced nationwide on June 27, 2016 and sold at Burger King. Squishmallows debuted in 2017 and has since evolved into a lovable lifestyle brand for fans of all ages. Bubbly sparkling water was first launched in the US and Canada in February 2018. AirPods Pro are wireless Bluetooth in-ear headphones designed by Apple and was introduced on October 30, 2019. Did you know? 2020 to 2025 historical facts. The Apple Watch SE was released on September 18, 2020. It was a budget option compared to the Apple Watch Series 6. Apple announced the AirTags on April 20, 2021, and it became available on April 30, 2021. The Carrot Knife, also known as a reddish knife, is a toy launched in 2022 which resembles a pocket knife with blunt plastic parts. The Grimace Shake was sold from June 2023 to July 2023 limited time birthday meal celebrating Grimace's 52nd birthday. In 2024, Moose Toys began selling Pickle Blast, a tabletop game using a mechanical paddle to hit a plastic pickle over a net into opponent's jar. The Nintendo Switch 2 is an upcoming hybrid video game console developed by Nintendo. It was announced on January 16, 2025 and is set to be released in 2025. If you like this kind of content, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel at MeTime806. Thank you very much.